Hey everybody! Update 11.1 recently dropped, so that means it's time for another update, Roundup. And I'm sorry about the delay, it's been quite a busy week. First we had the VaultCast on Sunday, and then immediately after, update 11.1 dropped. I normally try to get these things out a little bit earlier, but I felt like a video/summary about the VaultCast was just way more important. So now we're getting around to update 11.1. And if you haven't seen that VaultCast summary video, you can find a link to it in the description down below. It's full of a lot of really good information about the future of Vault Hunters and what future changes they're going to be making. And as you can see, I spruced up the little update house here just a little bit. It's still pretty pathetic, but it's better than it was. But this update roundup should be a lot smaller than the most recent ones. It is basically a hotfix after all. If you remember in update 11, I talked about some pretty big bugs that were in there, and it's been a full 2 weeks before they've been able to fix them. They said in the VaultCast that it was a pretty hairy bug and it took a long time to figure out. So 11.1 fixes these. Specifically, it fixes a bug with dungeons that makes them a lot more difficult than they really should be. No wonder I died after just a couple hits in that dungeon that I showed to you guys, huh? The other big bug had to do with effects that come from champion mobs. They weren't timing out, even after you left the vault, and so the only way to get rid of them was to relog or restart the server if you played on a server. Talk about a nasty bug. Those guys stay with you even after you're out of the vault. And a whole bunch of smaller bugs. But given that so much time has gone by, they just couldn't stop from putting in new features. Nope. So there's also a whole host of smaller new features added in to update 11.1. After adding ability power in update 11, it's only natural that update 11.1 would bring about a whole host of balancing changes. Some things were buffed, some things were nerfed, a few were even overhauled. Specifically, Rampage, Shell Quill, Stonefall Cold Snap, and Shell Porcupine received a bit of an overhaul to try to make them more balanced and usable. A lot of things received buffs, too many to mention actually, and a few things received nerfs. Hero's Landing, Mana Shield, and Javelin Scatter all got nerfed a little bit. But I try to cover the bigger things here, so I don't really want to go into the details of all of these minor changes, because quite frankly, there's some of these minor changes in every single update. One of those updates is actually right here in front of me, the bounty table. It's got a little exclamation point if you've got some bounties that you can pick up, and a lovely question mark like this if you've got a bounty to turn in. But I feel like it should be backwards. Isn't it standard that a question mark means there's a quest available for you, and an exclamation point means that there's one you can turn in? Maybe I'm misremembering back to my World of Warcraft days. I don't know. Nevertheless, it's a really nice quality of life change that they've made here, although extremely small. The quest system has gotten a little bit of love in this new bounty hunter quest apparently, and much later on, a quest for trinkets, which they said will actually give you a trinket. Sounds pretty good to me. Trinkets are super hard to get. After adding wands in update 11, they decided to tweak once again which kinds of affixes would go on which kinds of items. And while the patch notes are pretty good about telling you what changed, it doesn't really help you out if you don't remember what they are in the first place. But the gist as far as I could tell is that wands will always have an ability power as the primary. It used to be, just one patch ago, that wands would always have a skill enhancement, but that's been moved to a prefix, so it's not always guaranteed. Idols will always have some mana boosting as a primary, and that seems to be new. And shields I don't think changed that much. They're always about thorns or block chance, but not both. Oh, and while idols have a lot of great things that will help you out in the vaults, they've done away with anything that gives you immunity effects. Wither immunity, fatigue immunity, those kinds of things. Just plain gone. I don't think the vaults really did a lot with those kinds of effects, but yeah, that's pretty sad. If you've got any of those idols with the immunities in them, it might be worthwhile to keep them around. They might be useful later on down the road. But the last big change, and it's something of an overhaul, deals with magnets. Magnets were always kind of a grab bag for other kinds of things that would help you out, but they didn't really have any kind of unifying theme. So that's changed with this update. They've now deemed that magnets should affect stuff and not you. So it has item quantity or item rarity, reach, those kinds of things, but it doesn't have anything like mana regeneration or healing efficiency anymore. Overall, I think it makes sense. Another minor change is that the cost of all of your crafting ingredients now is 1 Vault Gold instead of 81 Vault Bronze. And mathematically, that's the same amount, but it's a whole lot easier to put a few gold into your forge and have it last a lot longer compared to needing over a stack of bronze for each item that you need to craft. It's just a lot less maintenance of putting things into the forge. Another nice quality of life change, actually. Another change to the Vault Forge is that vault plating is no longer an ingredient in order to craft your gear. And they said the plating cost on re-rolling gear was halved. So I know a lot of people were complaining about a big crunch with vault plating, and these two things should really help out. Really help you to get that gear remade and let you start rebuilding those supplies. And well, there we have it. That's all of 11.1. I told you it'd be pretty small. Now 11.2 will probably be out within the following week, so stay tuned for the next update for Roundup. As always, if you like this content and it was helpful to you, please consider subscribing to the channel. I've recently hit 600 and I feel amazing about that. YouTube, well, it doesn't mean anything to YouTube, but it means a lot to me. So thank you again so very much for all of you who have subscribed. In the meantime, remember, be excellent to each other. I'm out.